Imagine Christmas is coming, you are getting ready to pick up your daughter from the airport, who is coming to spend the holidays with you, but instead you wake up on a very bad news: she just killed herself. Let's go back in time to December 4, 2005, specifically at 8 a.m., when a body was found on a beach in Scotland. This body was for a 30-year-old woman called Annie Borgeson. The police completely surrounded the beach and closed the area near the body. A report was written the following day stating that Annie committed suicide. What is strange is the speed of the police's judgment that Annie committed suicide. So something was wrong from the beginning. Let's get to know Annie first and try to analyze what really happened with her. Did she got killed? Did she really kill herself? Or maybe she just passed away. Annie is a Swedish citizen. She was born on 1975 in Sweden. Annie had a blue eyes and a long blonde hair. Everyone around her described her as beautiful and ambitious. She used to speak multiple languages, and the most important point that must be mentioned is that Annie had nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. Annie faced many challenges in her 20th. For the past 2 years she used to move between Sweden and Scotland due to her work circumstances. Despite that, Annie's family was rich, is that she always wanted to rely on herself. On December 3rd, a day before Annie was found dead, Annie met a friend of her called Kate, so the police had to take her statement. Kate mentioned that Annie was acting normal and that she did not realize anything strange about her until she called her family, specifically her dad and brother. Kate said that her family was asking Annie if everything is okay because they felt some sadness in her voice, and that was their last call. Then Annie received another call from her mother. Her mother was trying to know what is upsetting her. Then she advised her to cancel her trip as she was worried about her, and asked her to call her back at night. Annie was mad at her mother because she felt that she is being overprotecting. She asked her to stop interfere with her life as she wanted to be more independent. Kate mentioned that after this call Annie's mood shifted. That's when I felt that Annie is really upset. The police started searching Annie's phone, including her latest calls, but what is strange is that the police did not find any call for the last 3 days, despite that her family called her just the day before she died. Another friend of Annie called Maria also mentioned that she called Annie the day before and talked for a whole hour, so it is very strange that all these calls are not on the call log. So the only logical explanation is that Annie used another number, but it remains just a possibility. The police asked Maria about what they talked about. She said that they talked about a lot of things, but Annie told her that she wants to go to a concert on that specific night at 11 p.m., but Annie did not give her much details. Despite that, Annie was funny and beautiful, but everyone agreed that she was mysterious. No one around her really knew if she had a boyfriend or not. One night Annie went to a cafe by herself. There she met famous soccer player Martin Leslie. Martin invited Annie to have a drink with him, but Annie refused, because Annie does not drink at all. But what Annie did not know is that was not Martin, but an impersonator. Since Martin Leslie was mentioned in the investigation, the police had to call up on him, and then were shocked to know that Martin was not in Scotland at that time. Annie met this impersonator once again at a gym. She told a friend of her that she had a bad feeling about this guy. Until today no one knows who is this person, or if he is related to Annie's death, or what brought him to introduce himself as Martin. This made the police to list him as one of the suspects. Let's introduce another character in the story, Amy. She was a housekeeper who used to often come to Annie's apartment to clean it. Amy mentioned that she saw Annie the same day of the incident at 1:15 p.m. Another witness mentioned that he saw Annie at the downtown at about 2 p.m. She was trying to get some cash out of her card, but it kept being rejected. But it takes Annie about an hour to get from her apartment to that bank, so how possible that Amy saw her in the apartment at 1:15? So the police put Amy on the suspects list, but they did not have enough evidence. So after Annie finished using the ATM, she headed to the train station where she was recorded on the security cameras. First Annie entered the station. She started walking in the upper floor. Then she exited the station and went to the parking lot. Then she went back to the station, then went again to the parking lot. Annie's movements were strange. Since Annie never missed a trip, she usually arrives early, but this time she seemed late or she missed the trip. At this point Annie left the station after spending 2 hours there. Then she headed to Bristol where her body was found. Her family confirmed that she never visited this city before. Another witness added that he saw a person that night at the beach sitting staring at the water, but he could not tell if it was a man or a woman since it was dark, and the following morning he heard that they found a body at the same spot where he saw that person. When Annie's body was found, it was covered with sand and seaweed, like if someone covered it. Annie had several bruises on her face. There was no sign of any assault. After presenting the body to the forensic doctor, the police closed the case as suicide, without any sufficient research being done. Annie's family refused the report. They accused the police of negligence. Her mother always used to argue with the police as she wants to know the truth. Opinions were divided. Some people think that Annie really killed herself. They think that was because of her bad financial conditions, based on the witness that said that Annie was trying to get some cash from her card and she failed multiple times, but her family insisted on that Annie had no financial troubles. Also, Annie paid her rent for a month ahead. When the police searched her apartment, they found a good cash amount. So nothing really shows that Annie had a financial problem. Others claim that her neighbors said that Annie started to act weird lately and showing signs of depression. This cannot be confirmed since Annie kept a distance from everyone. They also claim that Annie said that she is going to take a life-changing decision. No one can really know what Annie meant. If we really want to think about it, if Annie wanted to kill herself, why would she travel to another city to do it? Annie knew how to swim, so how was she able to drown herself? What if someone drowned her? This is a logical possibility, because when her body was examined, a large percentage of fresh water was found in her lungs that clearly indicates a drowning case, but the beach where Annie was found has a salty water. This only means that Annie did not drown where she was found, she drowned somewhere else, and her body then was moved to that beach. When Annie was found, her family demanded her diaries, as she always used to write her diaries, but her diaries were missing. Also, Annie wore a scarf which was also missing. All this indicates that there is something hidden. Annie's body was delivered to Sweden after 8 days. Her family noticed that a big traces of her hair was missing. Let's talk about the other opinion. Others claim that Annie was killed due to a mistaken identity. A journalist called Christina Borgeson was on the same trip with Annie. She was on a secret mission, so people suspect that she was the target, but this remained not so realistic since Christina was 20 years older than Annie with shorter hair. Plus, Christina is still alive until today, so if she was such an important target, why she is still alive? Despite all attempts, Annie's death remains a mystery. No one knows whether it was an accident or planned, or if she actually killed herself. What do you think happened to Annie? Please share in the comments below.